Hello, everyone. Today we're tackling a topic that's hidden behind the glitz and glamour of the entertainment industry: mental health. Did you know that 70% of artists face anxiety and depression at some point in their careers? There could be many factors, and today we're very lucky to feature the founder of Therapy Off Script, Chanel Connell. After going through her profile, I can tell you, I see a lot of hope in terms of mental health among our artists. Welcome to the show, Chanel. I'm so happy to have you. How are you doing today?
I'm good. I'm good. Thank you so much for having me. I'm really happy to be here.
We're very happy. I'm very happy to have you. Mental health is a topic that's very close to my heart. And we're so glad you created Therapy Off Script. It's high time, Chanel. Thank you for creating this project or platform.
I'm really happy to be able to bring mental health more to the forefront in the Canadian film industry. We do have some like really good advocates like Call Time Mental Health, the AFC Fund. So there's more and more people in Canada trying to get the message that mental health matters in film out there. But it is a little bit more of an unknown topic and subject within Canada, and we definitely don't have the resources or the plan to support what is actually needed.
You're highly trained and you're an actress.
I
You're an
am.
actress.
Yeah.
Again, congratulations on your booking.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So why you could, you could offer your services to anyone actually, right? But why are you focusing on the artists in the film industry?
So originally when I went to do my master's degree, I had planned to go into sex therapy for couples. That was kind of like my primary area of focus, and also dealing with like narcissistic abuse and trauma. Um, and what happened was, as I was going through my program and I was working in the industry, when COVID happened, and then we also had the strike, that was what kind of confirmed it for me that this is the area I want to go, is the strike. I saw cast, crew, kind of everyone in the entertainment industry, people that I've known for years, their mental health just tanked because the job security went like way downhill even more than it is before. That's one of the biggest struggles that film workers deal with is job security, because you're kind of unemployed after a
True,
show
true.
out. Unless you're booking like a long running series, you have to wait from gig to gig, and that's hard. And when you're gig hopping, you kind of go through this cycle of the anticipation. Oh, okay, I got a gig, I have work, it's security for a little while, and then when that goes away, you get those post-show blues, and sometimes it's hard for people to get out of them. So as I was working more in the industry as an actor and seeing my peers kind of struggle with their mental health, I thought to myself, why am I not amalgamating my skill sets and bringing something to a market that really needs it?
And you're the person who could actually understand because you've
Yeah.
lived that life. You're an artist, so you
Yes.
are in their world, you are in their mind, I would say, right? You're the best one who could,
Thank
you're the
you.
best one who could understand their situation, because not everybody can relate, because it's very specific to performers. I
Yeah.
know that performers or artists, they're very passionate about what they're doing. And do you think that that is a cause why they could be very emotional and it could be very intense, that leads to maybe some mental health struggle?
Yeah, I mean, just in general, in terms of statistics, and this, like, I even want to bring this up to help destigmatize like personality disorders. But the entertainment field is actually some of like one of the most attractive field to those that suffer or deal with like BPD, um, bipolar disorder, some of those cluster B subtypes. So it's a very attractive industry to people that sometimes have personality disorders. So we do have a higher indication of mental health just because of that factor within our industry. It's also a really big industry that deals with substance use and abuse. The suicide rates can be quite high for our industry because of all the different intricacies of it. Like we're working long hours when you're working such an unbalanced lifestyle of 15 hours a day. Sometimes I was just on set and we went overtime and it was such a long day and you have to drive back home at really weird hours. I have some night shoots coming up and I am not looking forward to those. And then society expects you to just kind of fold right back into the norm and you're not living a normal quote unquote life. Having to kind of fit within that while being creative is really hard. And that makes people, question their identity, question if there's like this is the right thing that they want to do. And it can create a lot of questions in someone's head, what ifs and anxiety, as well as unbalance, which when we're unbalanced and our nervous system is activated, it's really hard to regulate and handle things a lot better than, the average person.
There's a lot of expectation from the public
Yeah.
that you have to look as perfect as you can, and then you're criticized, and people look at you like you're a fish in a bowl. And I think that adds to the pressure that you have as an artist.
Mhm. One of my least favorite questions you get asked after booking a job is, so when's your next one?
Oh, like
And
does
you're
that make
like,
that that makes you feel like, oh my gosh, I don't have anything? And does is that how you feel?
yeah, and that's, well, for me, because I'm a therapist as well, I do have a bit of a grounding identity that I can go back to. When I'm not booking a job, when people ask me what's next, I'm like, well, I'm just going to go back to being a therapist. But if acting is all you do or crew work is
Yeah.
all you do and you're waiting for that next job, that can feel really sad sometimes. And it like rightfully so, because you're putting all of your effort and your passion and love into something that you enjoy. And then you have to wait to see when you get to do it next.
Plus the competition. It can be very hard. We're all human. You aim at something, you really do your best, you do your, what do you call that, your self tapes and all, and then you don't
Oh
get the
my gosh,
call.
yeah.
You're good because your profession, you can schedule that. It's a career that you have outside of the film and entertainment industry. So I can imagine those that do not have a career or profession like yours, who have to work part-time jobs, or it's not going to work because you have to stick to your schedule for your
Yeah.
normal routine, and then you have to act. So how are you even going to really be assured of a steady income if that's the world you're in?
Well, it's all these parts that you're kind of juggling. I
Mm.
have a friend that booked a job and they were struggling with getting time off of work. And it was kind of like I could lose my day job that I need when I'm auditioning, or I go do this role, which is what I want to do. And not a lot of industries are understanding of, hey,
Yeah,
I'm going to be
true.
gone for about a month. Thanks for that. I'm lucky and I feel very blessed to have clients that also understand that my schedule can change. And being the fact that I have a company that focuses on the film industry, I'm very upfront with them that I still work in the film industry.
Mhm.
And I let them know, hey, just like any one of you would take a job and things kind of have to drop sometimes. That's an expectations I put up front with my clients. And obviously, I try to mitigate the best I can and let them know the soonest I can if something has to change, because I do want to take into account how clients that have a hard time with change or last minute adjustments might deal with that. But because I set that expectation up front and we all work in the same industry, it's a little bit more understood.
Yeah, that's correct. And it's good that you are in that position, and hopefully you can find a way to make others feel that, okay, this happens to everyone and you're aware of that. Now, when someone is in the film or entertainment industry, how long does it take for them to realize that, hey, I need help? Or is it something they will hold off?
I think it's really person dependent. You do find more so, at least from experience, what I have seen is it will take longer for crew to want to invest in mental health and therapy. I feel like it could be a little bit more stigmatized in the area than it is for actors because actors, our job is very emotional. So people just kind of expect us to be emotional.
Exactly.
And like therapy is a little bit more like, oh yeah, you're an actor, you like the emotions thing. I know, especially within the industry, even when they do find a therapist, the retention rate of that is actually quite low because when you don't have a therapist that understands the film industry, you're spending 3 to 4 sessions trying to explain, okay, this is what my first AD is, and this is why they're, like this, and this is how the hierarchy works, and the therapist is trying to learn all of this. Whereas if you have someone who works in the industry, you can just get right to the root, like right in the thick of the muck that you're going through, rather than kind of having to be an educator, which can feel really frustrating and irritating sometimes. Which is why we do see drop-off rates with regular therapists that don't necessarily have a knowledge base of the film industry.
Yeah, because sometimes they just need someone to talk to. And you're
Hmm.
right, not an educator, because that's the last thing they want to listen to. And if you understand, then they know, because these people, the artists, they can feel if the one they're talking to really understands and is really focused on giving them help. Is there a specific age where you can tell this person is coming to me voluntarily because they want to, or is it because they're like I'm talking about the younger ones? Is there such a thing as voluntarily going to you and asking for your help, or someone else bringing them to you because they think that this person needs your help?
I would say more majority of the time, the clients that I deal with are usually in the space where they want help. By the time that you really kind of get to a point where you reach out to a therapist, most people are in crisis situations. And I'm not talking extreme crisis that you would think in terms of uh, like extremely negative effects, but more so crisis inside. It could be apparently we're celebrating crisis with the fireworks in my background. I don't know how that
I
happened.
love that. We'll make sure maybe we freeze a little bit.
Yeah, we're celebrating getting help when you need
We're
it.
celebrating getting, you're never alone. Uh,
Yeah. Though when people do come to me, they're a little bit more willing to start to do the work. I would say if, I'm dealing with a teenager or someone that has been sent to therapy by an organization, or people in their life have told them to get help, like you can tell because when you are dealing with the first couple sessions, you'll tend to feel the resistance. And that's usually when I just say to clients, look, like, I understand, like, you might not want to be here. That's okay. This is your time. You could sit there and you don't have to talk. We don't have to do anything. And just kind of breaking that barrier, letting them know that you're kind of on their side in terms of therapeutic relationship, like not forcing them to get into things that they don't want to get into yet really helps navigate and circumvent that piece of I don't want to be here.
mhm. And sometimes trust too, right?
Yeah,
You have to make them feel that they can trust you. And I don't think every person has that ability to create, an atmosphere of, hey, you can trust me.
yeah,
It takes a while. And I think it's skill. Like for you, for example, when you feel that, I'm sure you feel that, oh, someone's not very comfortable. How do you create an avenue of trust
for
right
trust.
there? Yeah.
I tend to love to use humor in my therapy sessions. I think I have part of that in my bio, that I like being humorous with clients because at the end of the day, we're all human. Um, I personally, myself, when I have a therapist and they're just very clinical, I feel so uncomfortable. Like, I want to know you see me as a person and not like a little like ant underneath a microscope,
Mhm.
that you're analyzing. So, I tend to try to break the ice with appropriate humor within a therapeutic setting. Obviously,
Yeah.
there's things like you can't say or you can't make, or you do have to be gentle with people and you kind of have to read the room. And that does take time and training. But I do notice clients, when they see that I'm willing to joke with them, they feel a lot more comfortable being themselves because they feel like they have someone to laugh with at their misery,
Yes,
rather than being laughed at.
that makes a lot of difference.
Yeah.
I remember you mentioned at the start of this interview that the 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 scenery, I mean the film and entertainment industry, the nature of that industry attracts people who are already going through anxiety or some form of a mental health struggle. Is it like a magnet that's drawing them?
Well, so you have to think about people and patterns. When we have more unstable childhoods, we're naturally going to gravitate towards unstable situations because that's what feels safe.
Hmm.
So, um, if you are highly anxious as a child in relationships, you might gravitate towards relationships that make you highly anxious. Not to say everyone in the film industry suffers with mental health because that's just not true. But typically people will go toward an avenue that feels familiar. So if you had a lot of unpredictability in your childhood, of course you're going to feel safer, but it's kind of a false sense of safety in a more unpredictable field. That's why you have the psychologist that doesn't understand the industry. They're like, well, if this is like causing you so much pain, why don't you just leave it?
Yeah.
And like
Get
that is just
over
an
it.
invalidating thing to hear.
That's true. It's like snap out of, these were the worst. These are, I think, the worst words that you'll hear when you're really going through. Snap out of it. It's just all in your head. Well, it is in your head, but you do need help because
I
you,
always like if a client says to me, they're like, I just want to move on from this. I'm like, how about we like slow that process down instead of just trying to move on, we learn how to move forward.
yeah. And is
Because
accepting it part of moving
yeah,
on?
exactly. Accepting it is a part of, see, I don't even like moving on because moving on says that like, oh, I'm going to move on from it. I like forget it. It didn't happen. It's not a part of me. Which can be a good coping mechanism in the moment if something is really traumatic. But
Mhm.
moving forward is learning how to actually take what happened to you, um, either own it or accept it and commit to move, like acceptance and commitment therapy. You accept it, you commit to it, and then you work on how to cope with it in better ways until it doesn't actually activate you and bug you later on in the future.
That's true because I learned, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, or you can confirm that once you develop a certain type of mental health struggle, it'll be with you for life. It's not going to go away. So you have to really learn to cope and live with it and make the most of it. Is that right?
That is actually more of a myth.
Mm,
For example, BPD, patients that use DBT, that's incorrect, DBT therapy,
DBT.
which is dialectical behavioral therapy,
Mm,
uh, find up to like an 89% recovery rate where they actually won't meet the criteria for BPD diagnosis. And there's a lot of misdiagnosis that happens too within mental health. I necessarily, as a clinician, I'm a registered clinical counselor. I can't diagnose people. So I treat symptomatically. So it doesn't necessarily matter if you're coming to me and you have BPD or CPTSD. What matters is we're treating the symptom and we're finding something that works for you. Yes, I'm going
mhm.
to take the diagnosis into consideration because it gives me a lot of information. But those two diagnoses, and CPTSD is kind of a controversial term within the psychology realm. Some believe it exists. It's complex post-traumatic stress disorder.
Mm.
Some believe that it doesn't exist, but it has a lot of overlapping symptoms with BPD. So treating those similarly can work because you're treating the symptom. So if you see a symptom reduction, that's when we say like you're in recovery. Like
Wow.
you don't have to live with it for the rest of your life
Mm.
because you're in recovery. Some mental illnesses need prescriptions or medications. That's more so when you're dealing like with schizophrenia, but others you can treat a little bit more holistically. Um, people's anxiety can go down where they no longer qualify for general anxiety disorder or like major depressive disorder. So lots of those things can actually be managed, but it does take a long time commitment, often of therapy.
Yeah, I can see it's very complex, and as you say, it varies from one person to another. So I don't know if it's even possible. Is there one general advice that you can give, regardless of what kind of a mental health struggle people are going through? Is there one basic like mantra that you can say, this is what we need to do first, that will apply universally, if that's even possible?
I think just in terms of a general motto, I always say for myself, like treat people in a way that leaves you better off than you found them.
Mm.
I think if we treated each other better just in terms of a society and as human beings, especially on set, most sets that I have been on, the crew is lovely and everyone treats each other quite well, which is nice. But I have seen sets where, there is a little bit more conflict and people can feel really undervalued.
Mm.
If we take the responsibility of treating people in a way that leaves them better off than we found them, we can help each other heal.
It's a very, very thin line sometimes that
It is
not
a thing.
only you, right? Even people around you walk when they know someone's going through a struggle.
I try to preach like resiliency is one of the key things that we can do as people to try and build within ourselves.
Mm.
Because if you have good like internal resiliency and you're able to have like a good internal like focus of control, how you react to people will be much different. But that is a really hard thing to get to when you're highly activated. And having the self-compassion with yourself that if you try, you might not always get it right is also highly important.
Wow. Especially in the entertainment industry where as you say, the show must go on. I think I
Yeah.
saw that on your website. And that's literally true. Whether you're suffering or whether you have colds if you're a singer, the show must go on, and that will really affect your mental health. You'll have anxiety, and it'll drive some insecurities within you. And then it will affect your performance. And then you feel like you didn't do well. So you just keep crashing.
Yeah. I remember I did a show and I had food poisoning that morning.
Oh my goodness.
My mother was like kind enough, she drove me to set, but I had a bowl in front of me and I was like vomiting as we're driving. Just the energy for me wasn't there. Maybe other people won't notice, but when you think about it that way, people are a lot more easy to be compassionate towards you when they can actually see a physical like ailment. But when you're struggling with anxiety or depression, oftentimes that's more of an invisible illness.
Yeah.
And people are like, well, you're fine. And half the time, people that have depression mask it with like humor
Yeah.
and happiness. And you think that they're the most bubbly person in the world, but they're struggling. You're like, falling and fumbling out of control in your world because you're trying to control everything with anxiety and you can't see that. So if you notice little things about people that you're like, oh, interesting, like that's not regular for how I usually experience them. Don't be afraid to check in and do so gently. You don't want to, um,
Yeah.
so many people hate when they're like, "Are you okay?"
Exactly. And
But
sometimes you don't want to talk, right? Just like leave
yeah,
me alone.
but sometimes you can even just go up to someone and be like, "Hey, I noticed you seem a little different today. If you need to talk, I'm here for you."
That's true. And we have to admit that not everybody's really aware of mental health,
Mhm.
that it takes some kindness in you to simply ask a person or approach that person. Even if you mean well, sometimes your words will not come across as kind because that person is already very unstable.
Yeah, it is dependent on how perspective and how people hear things. Our brains assign meaning. So especially with anxiety, if we're activated, we're going to assign more of a triggering meaning to it than we will when our nervous system is more regulated.
Yeah.
If you do have the kindness to go up to someone and ask them how they're feeling, also have the maturity to realize I might not get the response that
Mm-hmm.
I'm expecting out of this, and that's okay.
That's true. It takes a lot. You have a huge task ahead of you, Chanel, because it's everywhere. You never know, the person you're talking to could be going through anxiety. If for our audience right now, those people who are waiting, who are watching, what's your message that you can give them?
I think within the film industry specifically, I would say when it comes to mental health, it's so cliche, but know that you aren't alone. There are people like myself and others that really do see the value in mental health and film, and we're working to try and change that. I love what the UK is doing. They have well-being plans within production, current, like, and post-production. So all the way through, they have a well-being plan, and those are things that people like myself and other mental well-being advocates in Canada are trying to get people to see the value in here. But also know that you have strength in numbers.
Yes.
So if you are suffering, sometimes the bravest thing that you can do is go to someone and ask for support and help. If you feel like you don't have that kind of person, check helplines. Like those are some of the best things that you can do is talk to someone at a designated service that's available 24/7. It can take time to get in to see a therapist. My client list is open, but not everyone's is. And that can be really frustrating when you're desperate for help and you're desperate for someone to talk to. A helpline is always going to be open if you don't have a support system available to you. But if you do, rely on those supports and utilize them, because 90% of the time, people do want to actually be there for you. The world isn't as negative as we often view it. Even if you have different political views or ideas than someone, approaching them with common humanity, knowing I might not see the same way, is a lot better for your mental health than viewing someone as an enemy that can't help you because you think differently. And that's also broadening your mind to accept differences and change.
It helps for people to actually hear it from someone like you.
Yeah. I I see too much divide sometimes in thought ideas, and that makes me really sad because I look at character of people, and if someone has good character, even if they think different than you, chances are they're going to be open to be able to have a productive conversation or at least have empathy for you in the way that you see things. If you are afraid, just ask someone how much capacity they have.
Mm.
Do you have the capacity for me
Oh,
to
that's beautiful. That's
ask for your
beautiful.
support in this? Because if they're going through something, they might not. But
Mm.
having the bravery to ask for capacity, at least mitigates that feeling of rejection if someone can't help you.
Wow. Well, thank you so much, Chanel. I feel so bad that we have to end this interview.
Good.
You obviously have a lot to give. And so before we go, I'd like to thank Lisa for bringing you to the show. Thank you so much.
Thanks,
And
Lisa.
I got to interview you again because this can't be just a one session kind of thing.
I would love to do that.
Right? Okay. Well, thank you so much. And I hope to see you online. You take care of yourself.
Thank you.
And everyone else, don't forget to follow Chanel
You as
online
well.
and approach her if you need some help. Thanks very much,
Absolutely.
Chanel. You take
Thanks
care.
so much. Okay.
Bye for now.
Bye.
Wow, I couldn't be more inspired. Thank you, Chanel. This is one of the most urgent, most relevant, most important topics that we all have to really focus on. I can't wait to see so many people within the entertainment industry take advantage of the services and opportunities that Chanel's therapy off script offers. Thanks for watching, everyone. If you haven't subscribed to our channel yet, don't forget to hit the subscribe button, like, comment, and share this episode. Someone out there might actually be needing some form of information or help about mental health. Of course, I want to thank my media partner, Lisa Warter, CEO of Noodlehead Productions. Thank you for bringing Chanel to the show. And to everyone out there, thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye for now.